in the pyramids of Egypt, kind of glowing green tablets.
Why are they glowing?
You know what's also in Africa? Wakanda. That's vibranium. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Queenie, for those who don't know me, reviewing Love is Blind Season 8, Episodes 3 and 4. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe and hit the bell, and leave a comment down below. Believe it or not, it is day 87 in these pods. My Lord, we've been here forever. And I have a theory. Number one, people always complain, oh, we didn't get to see enough, like the show is too short and whatever. I think that's a part of it. I also noticed, and I'm sure you guys did too, this season they're playing some real songs. And I'm thinking, did Netflix blow the budget this year? And so to make up for having these copywritten songs in their show, they need to extend the show to get more watch time, to get more revenue. That's my theory, because I'm like, why are we still here in the pods? Anyways, Daniel and Taylor are in the pods, and they talk about one of their happiest days being getting the call that they're going to be on the show, because they're just so eager to find their person.
There's no way. Like, why me?
Because you're incredible.
I didn't know if I was gonna come here and like truly connect with someone.
Yeah.
And like I definitely have.
The older I've gotten, the more I've seen love happen for everyone around me. Like maybe my person doesn't exist. And so I've like tried to come to terms with it. Probably my biggest fear is that maybe that kind of happiness doesn't exist for me.
I feel Taylor on the whole, like, I've been so unlucky in love. I was starting to believe that my person isn't even out there. It's hard. Have I shouted out Bae in the Love is Blind videos? I haven't. Shout out you, Bae. It's hard. I get it. But babes, you're 31. You're 31. Life is not over at 31 if you don't have a partner. I think the rhetoric that, oh, if you don't find your partner early, it's bad for you. But I think that rhetoric it's harmful. It is harmful because people end up getting into these dead end relationships because of that fear that they're never going to find somebody or their clock is running out. And I do understand on a reproductive level for women, it is a little bit more complicated for us, but life does not end because you didn't find your partner in your 20s. Like, it's okay. You will be fine. So yeah, they are connecting with each other. I do think that at this point they're only with each other. So they're each other's number one. I'm sure they're going to get engaged by the end of the pods, whenever we get there. 57 days from now at this point. Madison says that Alex is still her number one. And even though her feelings were hurt because of the previous conversation they had about attachment styles and stuff, she wants to prove to him that she is not that girl and she's willing to put in the effort.
What? I love it. It's the Berlian. Wow, I love this. Thank you.
If you want to keep it for the whole night, you can. Obviously, we had kind of an intense conversation last time. I'm not that person anymore.
Well, I believe you and I trust you. I shouldn't take past relationship traumas into new relationships.
Now, why did one of y'all come and burst my Alex bubble? Alexis, yes, I called you by name. Why did you burst my bubble? I went over to Discord, and apparently Alex has some allegations that are not too flattering. Every season, there's got to be at least one. I'm sure on this season there's more. I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole because then people are going to spoil for me, and I don't want to be spoiled right now. Yeah, Alex, the people on TikTok are talking about him, and it's not too good. I don't want to spread what's being said because I don't know if it's true or not, but you can do your Googles. Yeah, you can do your Googles. I'm just going to pretend like I don't know what I know. I still believe that Alex is navigating the pods well. Now, up until a certain point. So he is listening to everything that Madison is saying. She's like, listen, I do understand that I gave you a lot of information that has you on the back foot. I promise you, I am willing to put in the work. I have been putting in the work. And she gives a lot of context as to why she is the way that she is, which does help. And he's like, you know what? I'll take your word for it. Cool. But then she says something again that puts him on the back foot. I think it was her talking about the fact that she tends to go on autopilot sometimes in relationships. So and I forgot to mention this part. Why did she say there was a time when she wrote a letter to her parents basically saying, hey, it's either me or the drugs, and they chose the drugs? Imagine what that does to your psyche. Hello? Oh my gosh. I really do empathize with the girl to a certain point, because in this batch of episodes, I was looking at her sideways, not gonna lie to you. But I can imagine why she dissociates sometimes from people. Like, imagine the people who are supposed to love you the most choosing drugs over loving you. I could see why she detaches. I could see why she's an avoidant. And so this makes Alex think, that's a little bit scary for me. And that's where I'm like, okay, Alex, at some point, you can't be stuck in your head all the time when you hear something slightly concerning. Like, I do think at some point you're going to have to lead with trust. And she even tells him that, like, I've been through a lot and I've told you basically most of it. If you think that we've built a strong foundation, then you're just going to have faith that we can make things work. But for him to be like, okay, I've worked through this thing, I think we're good. And then he hears something else and does like, I'm scared. You're kind of looking like the avoidant at this point. Now, should he fully trust Madison? I don't think so, based on what we later learn. But at this point, I feel like she's saying things that she has already said before. It kind of feels like a reiteration. So he can't keep coming in and going out and coming in and going out because of the fear that he has. Either you're going to accept everything that she comes with, or you're going to take a full step backwards and leave her alone. He says he wants to be completely sure before making the decision to propose to somebody. And I do understand that rationale. However, in this process, it's damn near impossible. In life, it's damn near impossible. How many couples have you heard say, like, at their vow renewal or something, I'm more sure now than the day that we actually got married? Like, there's no absolute certainty when you do it. You should be more certain than uncertain, but complete certainty, I don't think that's going to happen. So he has to make a hard decision at this point. David and Lauren talk again. And at this point, I don't know if I just have a vendetta against David, but I'm just like, Lauren, he doesn't raise any flags for you?
Are you ready to talk about kids?
Yes, I'm pumped to talk this.
We're all 30.
Yeah, you're getting old. Let's crank this thing up a notch.
It's hard to visualize kids when you don't have a husband.
Totally. Or even a boyfriend.
Somebody brought up, like, when you get your phone back, people are like, oh, I might have to delete some shit.
I don't think I have to delete anything.
No nudes on there.
I don't have anything to hide. You wouldn't find them anyways.
Okay. I didn't expect that one.
So they were supposed to talk about kids, and then the conversation got derailed a little bit. And then he started nagging again. I think it's nagging. For him, he says that, oh, I was making jokes in the pods and some of the girls just don't get it. I guess I don't understand his banter. To me, it comes off as nagging. But I'm just like, there's too much with David for me. It would just be yellow flag, yellow flag, yellow flag. Just too many flags. I don't know that he has said anything outside of the 32 unattractiveness thing that would be a red flag. But when I have a plethora of yellow flags, for me, that's enough. With Lauren, he claims that this is the first time he's felt so strongly about somebody, but he says the same thing to Molly whenever he's talking to her. And he also just gets deeper with Molly, in my opinion. They were talking about religion and how that ties to their politics. And they both agree that they don't have to fully agree with what either party is saying. For the most part, they just believe in the human rights of people, or like whichever laws make the most sense for them at that time. They also talk about wanting to have conversations about being queer with their child, and also talked about stay-at-home living and which structure works best for their family. Like, they're not straight line, like, we're this way, we're that way. It's just whichever situation makes the most sense for our couple. But even the fact that they're talking about these things, they're unpacking politics, religion, raising kids, past traumas, past behaviors and relationships, that's a hell of a lot more than he does with Lauren. And I don't even know what Lauren is falling in love with at this point, because based on what we've seen, they're not getting that deep. If I'm to make a decision on whether or not I want to marry this person, based on the conversations that she has had with what is his name, David, it wouldn't be enough. It would not be enough for me. Of course, it's an edited show, like, let's be for real, but I think there's a reason why the show is showing us the conversations with Molly being so much deeper than the conversations with Lauren. Devin and Virginia talk about needing to get deeper if they're going to get married by the end of this process. And Virginia is really struggling.
In 5 years, I feel like I see myself pregnant with like a baby on my hip and like a Park Center top.
Oh.
And I feel like you're coaching varsity. You're a really, really, really amazing person.
That's sweet. We should really focus on like getting deeper, and you've been closed off from like telling people things.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I can get down on one knee and propose to you if I don't know everything about you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it could be forever if you don't feel like you could talk to the person about anything.
Even though Devin can see Virginia as his potential wife, he needs that vulnerability aspect to be there in their relationship for him to fully take that leap. And she's getting in her own way. We later learned that she had been in relationships where she had been gaslit and she feels like she was taken advantage of. And she's just scared of making that wrong decision. Completely understandable, but you can't come into this expedited process and have that hang up. You can't hold yourself back from being vulnerable because of your past when we need to make a decision on whether or not we're going to get engaged and ultimately married by the end of however long the process is. Like, yeah, I felt for her, but I also was like, we talk about the men a lot coming in with their baggage and not unpacking it before coming onto the show and then making it hard to connect with some of the women because they have this wall up. The same applies to people like Virginia. Like, I feel for her, but you got to open up. Marriage is a big deal. Let's not know, oh, we'll just go off of vibes. And I'm glad that Devin called her out on that and was basically saying, I need to be sure about my decision. And to be sure, I need more of you. And you're not giving me more. I also think the more he talks to Brittany, the more that he's intrigued by her. I think that naturally he would have gravitated to Virginia more just because he's having this turmoil. Like, I can see a future with her, but I can't be sold on a vision or a dream. I need her to avail herself a little bit more. So the fact that Brittany is willingly so open and so vulnerable, he just gets intrigued by her more and more as time goes on. So yeah, Virginia is falling by the wayside and it's of her own actions. Madison and Mason have a conversation where I started to side-eye Madison. I feel like she was trying to force Mason's hand during this pod date.
I have never broken up with anyone.
I have been the one to break up with people. I just respect myself too much to allow bullshit. I wish I didn't have to think about this girl's feelings too. The other girl that you have a connection with, it's you or not. And I feel like you would want to know something like that. Like my other connection, I'm getting just a little more.
It sucks to hear that you're getting words of affirmation. This is a connection that means so much to me, and I'm not gonna just throw this away.
In this conversation, Madison says that she gets more affirmation from Alex. She doesn't say Alex by name, but she gets more affirmation from her other connection. But earlier we heard her say that she gets more affirmation from Mason compared to Alex. So I was like, okay. Then she goes on to say that she tends to call the shots in her relationship. She has been the one to break things off because she values herself so much. And his other connection, and she knows it's obviously Meg, his other connection is all in. It's either Mason or nobody. And I kind of feel like that was very calculated because it's like, you have a sure thing over there, but me, I have another option. And so are you going to secure your spot or are you going to leave it to be up in the air? It was very calculated. I didn't like it. And on top of that, he just finished saying that he tends to stay in relationships longer than he should because he wants to fight to the bitter end. I think this is a little bit of that, He's seeing that he could potentially lose this girl. He might want to grasp onto her harder because she has made it clear that she's going to leave. At the first sign of, hey, this is not suiting me anymore, she's going to dip. And obviously, that's a concern for him. He sleeps on the matter. He comes the next day and he's like, you know what? I'm committed to you. And she's like, I hope you don't think that I gave you an ultimatum. All but the word ultimatum. Yeah, you kind of did. You kind of did. Just for her to walk out of that date and be like, yeah, he's still my number 2. So what the hell was that about? Either way, I think that Mason should stick with Meg. I honestly feel like they have a better connection going on. But I can see why he's now trying to fight for, what's her name now? Madison. She kind of put him in that position like, hey, choose me now or you're going to lose me. So he chose her and he's going to lose her anyways. Ben and Sarah ended up having another conversation about his faith. He says that her life, the people in her life would not have an issue with him and the way that he lives his own life because his faith is very accepting. So your lifestyle, your decisions, who you choose to love, none of that matters to him. He's going to lead with love. They do, however, clash when it comes to political beliefs and your involvement in social justice.
What are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter, George Floyd?
I'm like kind of ignorant towards that stuff. Like as long as I don't know, it's not gonna, do much. So like I didn't vote in the last election.
That is so annoying.
I'm sorry.
I think it's very valuable and important to think about those things.
Like I'm not one way or another. I just kind of keep out of it.
It's not like you're actively like racist. What's so important is to speak up for things that are happening around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I personally believe what happened to George Floyd,
Yeah.
I don't think that's right at all.
Yeah.
You know what, Sarah? You're all right with me, baby girl. You are all right with me. Yeah. I loved it. I love the fact that she stood her ground on the problem with indifference. Like, you need to stand for something or you'll fall for everything. Come to some kind of decision, sir, And she basically was saying it is so important for me to be with somebody who finds value in fighting for social justice, fighting for human rights, whether or not it affects you. And with him, it was more so like I turn a blind eye, like I choose to be ignorant because if I don't look at it, it doesn't bother me. Yeah, no, that wouldn't fly with me either. It wouldn't. It would not. So yeah, he basically was saying I could show her better than I could tell her. But the whole point of the process is to, fall for somebody based on how they present themselves in these pods. I don't have the luxury of waiting to see if we're compatible on the outside. I need to move around and find another connection. He did not give her enough reassurance, and I'm glad that she wasn't going to backpedal on her beliefs. I also find it so crazy how you're in such a privileged position and you admit that, I'm not going to utilize my privilege simply because those matters don't affect me. I feel like that speaks volumes of who you are. Like, it doesn't matter what your political stance is, like you believe what you believe, but when it comes to human rights, for me, I would need to be with somebody who takes a stand against the violation of human rights. That's just a non-negotiable. Madison has a date with Alex where she basically tells him, hey, it's me and you, baby. And this is where I really got a bad taste in my mouth regarding Madison.
Walked into my first date this morning and I just was not into it. Figure out if it was like a connection or just a friend. He's saying a lot of the right things, but with you, I just want to be right there with you. It doesn't feel forced or fake. You were my number one.
From day one?
From day one.
Does this mean that you will be my girlfriend?
I do have to break up with someone, but...
That sounds really sad. Can you tell me who else you were dating?
Okay, if you tell me.
Meg and Monica.
Meg. So the person I have to break up with is Mason. I feel a little bad just because of some things he said to me this morning. I was like, damn, I'm gonna hurt this person.
So a few things that kind of set me off. I didn't like the way that she scoffed at the mention of Meg. I understand it was like me and this girl, we stay dating the same person. Like, why is she always in the mix? I do get it, but it felt a little, I don't know. It felt a little icky to me. I also didn't like the fact that she basically made Mason seem like he was a beg. And I'm like, I don't know. She was just like, oh yeah, now I got to break somebody's heart. Like, oh well, whatever. And I'm like, but you didn't have to do that. Like, there were opportunities where you could have just let the connection naturally come to an end, but you kept bird feeding him a little bit. I feel like she led him into committing to her just for her to now be like, haha, snatch it away. I ain't like that. So because Madison has made the decision for Mason, Meg is now wondering if Mason was going to pick her off his own volition or if she is now the default option. I do think based on the fact that he had just expressed his commitment, it does feel like a default, but on paper, the better match really is Meg. So it's unfortunate that Mason is now in a sticky situation. I do think it's going to be hard to navigate this whole, am I actually your first pick? Am I your backup? Are you just choosing me because your number one didn't choose you? Ew. I think his number one should have been Meg from time. I'm not quite sure what it was that kept him intrigued with, I guess, the chase. I think it's the chase. Because even he's just like, there's a synergy with Meg that I just cannot shake. me and this girl are so alike, we're so compatible. I need to keep that going. That compatibility to me does not, his connection with Madison does not measure up. It pales in comparison with his connection with Meg. So why, these names are hurting my head. Why Madison was still in the running to begin with didn't make sense to me. Jesus, my head hurts. Brittany and Devin have a very vulnerable conversation on both ends because they both shared something that was really raw in their lives. And yeah, I was on the verge of tears, honestly.
Senior year of high school, my back started to get really bad. Putting shoes on was hard. Walking was hard. I took 2 ibuprofen before practice, 12 to 16 to 20. I was just getting to the point where I was kind of like fighting with myself, but I just would wake up every morning and be like, what's the point? That's when I just started turning to God and praying and abusing the medicine. Still kind of feel ashamed of doing.
I feel like I've been programmed to kind of be ashamed. Even with some of my best friends, I've had a few experiences throughout my life. I've never seen myself dating or like being with a woman seriously. Being married with a man, this is what I envision my life being.
If you've been around and you've heard my story, you know that mental health is a big, big thing in your girl's book. I don't play about mental health because I too once struggled to find the will to live at some point. So I get it. I felt for Devin in this moment. I definitely felt for him. He found himself in a slippery slope, got addicted to drugs, and his belief in God is what kept him alive. His belief in God is what got him to seek professional help and actually find the issue to his pain. And it's crazy how something like an ailment led to a drug addiction when he could have just found the cure to the ailment. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even like, oh, I want to numb like a mental pain. It was just, I have a physical pain and I'm trying to address that. And it just got so excessive to the point where he became so dependent. Like the slippery slope is crazy. It can happen to anybody, honestly. So after he was being vulnerable, Brittany decided to be vulnerable, and I really felt for her because she was basically saying that she has been grappling with her sexuality over the past few years, and she's been in relationships with women before. And at the end of the day, she believes that marriage for her needs to be with a man. So he asks her, okay, so do you want to be with a woman at some point? Like, is this something that's going to come back up? And she says, well, I do believe that people are beautiful no matter who you are. So I was wondering, she said she doesn't like titles, so I'm not trying to put a title on her. It's just in my mind, a thought was like, is she pansexual? Is she bisexual? Either way, she feels like who she's with is who she's with. So if she is with Devin, if she's married to Devin, she's monogamous. There's no, oh, well, because I'm also attracted to women, I'm going to explore a connection with a woman. Or because I'm attracted to people, I'm going to explore a connection with another person. Naturally, because this is something that Devin is not used to, he just needed some time to process it. Unfortunately, Brittany wanted a different reaction, but she understands why he just needs a moment to process. It's tough because he was also raised Christian. She was raised Christian. This is something she hasn't even shared with her own friends and family. So that's going to be something when they watch this episode. Yeah, I felt for both of them. I really did. He told the same story to Virginia. She got really emotional. But again, did she get vulnerable? No, she didn't. So I want to see who he's going to lean towards, because that vulnerability he is getting from Brittany, it's just this new revelation that now has him questioning whether or not he wants to pursue that connection. Lauren is getting really frustrated that every day she has to hear Molly holler and rave about her connection with her number one. So she's like, you know what? Let me just ask the man what's good.
I feel a lot more confident in there than I feel in here.
You don't know if they know that you know?
And then she comes in last night and she's like, my number one told me I was his number one. Is she interpreting things differently? Like, I just don't really know. If he talks to me like that and talks to her like that, then he's like a really good manipulator and liar. If that's how you feel, then I don't need to be here.
What I didn't want to happen is like get caught up in like the girl drama.
Dave, you were my number one on day one.
I wish we would have like talked about this before right now.
I am glad that she's starting to question whether or not David is being manipulative, because I'm like, girl, the flags have been flagging. Where have you been? Where have you been? So she's like, okay, obviously there's one of two issues. He is telling both of us the same thing, or this girl is delusional. I think go with the first. He's telling both of you guys the same thing. She asks him, hey, I'm hearing things. What's tea? And he's like, oh, you know, this is why I didn't want to get into the girl drama. And not you waffling. Not you calling it girl drama. Another flag. Lauren. Too many flags are on the play at this point, baby. Quit the game. Quit. Oh man, I want her to leave this man alone. Clearly, he should be with Molly simply off of the fact that he is actually real with Molly. Whereas with Lauren, he sells her a dream. And she's starting to realize, maybe I'm being sold a dream. Yes, babe, you are. You absolutely are. We'll see in episode 5 if she's going to do something about it. But yeah, let that man go with Molly. Clearly, she has no problem with him and everything he comes with. I think Lauren would have a harder time dealing with David on the outside. I really do. But we'll see how things go. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.